Hey, I'm Al Corlin. Thanks so much for joining me. We are in Vancouver, British Columbia right now at the Cambridge House International Investment Conferences put on by none other than Cambridge House. As I say at the start of all these videos, you know, the nice thing about doing the videos up here is you run into old friends. And I have three gentlemen with me right now. Not so sure that they're friends, but they're very definitely old. Let me tell you about each one of them. These people are all certifiably insane. We started out with Chris Powell, one of the founders of GATA, the Gold Antitrust Action Committee, an absolutely off-the-wall, totally ridiculous organization. Bill Murphy over here. Bill is the co-founder of GATA. Crazier than Chris, I would have to say. And then Ed Steer, you're one of the newcomers. You're the token Canadian, and you still have a little bit of sanity left in your head.
I think so, yes.
These guys are three of the most interesting people in our business, and they are far from being certifiably insane. They are three of the brightest individuals who I've ever met. I've had the privilege of having them count me and me count them as friends for an awful long time now. I spoke at their conference in Washington, D.C. Let me tell you, that was the most interesting conference, bar none, that I've ever attended. GATA as an organization, the Gold Antitrust Action Committee, is a fascinating organization. Bill and Chris I don't want to say stumbled on the idea, that isn't true, uncovered the reality of gold manipulation in the United States a number of years ago, and the rest is history. I want to start out with Chris and let him tell you about it.
Yeah, Al, it was really kind of an accident. Bill was starting his internet site of gold and silver market commentary back in 1998, and he noticed very strange activity in the markets. The gold and silver price seemed to get hit at crucial moments by the same parties all the time, and he began to figure this was manipulation. Complained about it a lot. I was one of his early subscribers, and I had some familiarity with antitrust law, and I told him that instead of just complaining about it, somebody ought to do something about it. And
so you took Bill really seriously right from day one, yeah. As did I.
There was a lot of circumstantial evidence in support of what he was writing, and you have to track back the gold price manipulation scheme's exposure to his work at LaMetropolCafe.com.
Yeah, and the LaMetropolCafe.com, we're going to shift over to Bill here right now, but LaMetropolCafe.com is a very interesting website. It is highly visited. I don't know where they're rated, but they're certainly as high as any of the websites in our industry are. I've contributed to LaMetropol, but more importantly than that, I have read most of the stuff that's on there. I've met some very interesting people. Most recently, a woman who I met a long time ago, courtesy of Bill Murphy, Ellen Brown, who's a regular contributor to La Metropole Cafe, was on our show. Ellen generated more comments than any other guest that I've had in the history of the show. Fascinating woman. Okay, Murph, let's talk about how you evolved from La Metropole into GATA.
Well, as Chris was saying, it was clear to me, having been a maximum position futures trader at one time, that something was very wrong in the gold market, because these big banks, JP was Morgan back then, Chase, and Deutsche Bank, Goldman Sachs, came in and were hitting the market at the same time. Then I heard some other things of what the Goldman Sachs was doing and to try to get people to sell, and it was really clear to me, because of the trading activity, that the market was rigged. And I started screaming about it, because gold was about $290 then, and long-term capital management had blown up, and we knew they were short 400 tons, and the market should have gone nuts, as they had to cover. But the banks, because they were all so big short, all got together and made sure that this didn't happen. Anyway, so we formed GATA in January of 1999. I got on CNBC somehow a week or two later, and that was almost 12 and a half years ago, and I've never been on CNBC since. Pretty much blackballed, because we're taking on the richest and most powerful people in the world, and it's a big deal.
You are truly taking on, Murph truly is taking on, along with Chris and Ed, the richest and most powerful people in the world. You know, a lot of people, you either love these guys or you hate them. I happen to agree, just because logic tells me that a lot of the philosophy of GATA is 100% correct. why do I say that? I say that because the price of gold, in my opinion, is the best barometer out there of consumer confidence around the world. Okay, gold has been around for thousands and thousands of years, mentioned in the Bible as as being part of our history since day one. Okay, whenever the price of gold escalates, that's typically, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ed, but that's typically in response to, among other things, shaky economic conditions. Okay, now, having said that, I believe it's not in the interest of the U.S. government to have a high gold price, because that way people are going to become very, very aware of just how bad things are. I mean, I would have to say that 70% of the population in the United States doesn't realize that our economy is a total house of cards. And I think therein lies the relationship between the price of gold and economic, I don't want to use the word certainty, but economic satisfaction, for lack of better terms.
Well, gold has always been the economic canary in the coal, or the canary in the economic coal mine, and as long as they can suppress the price, or at least to control the rate of the rise of the price, then all eyes are going to be off it. And I think that we've seen what we've called a controlled retreat by the bullion banks out of their massive short positions in the futures market, and trying to prevent this thing from becoming a runaway gold market. Because the moment they decide that they're no longer going to play, and the law of supply and demand kicks in, you're going to find a silver and gold price that, frankly, most people can't believe. And they're doing exactly what you're saying, Al. They're trying to prevent the people from saving themselves by going into gold and silver, but it's now getting to the point where lots and lots more people see that. And it's only a matter of time before the trickle that's going into gold and silver becomes a flood as people try to save themselves from the financial, economic, and monetary Armageddon that's staring them right in the face.
Monetary Armageddon is, I think, personally, I think it's right around the corner. Chris, I want to focus on kind of, your end of this particular organization. Now, how exactly is GATA set up? Are you guys a 3C2B or whatever it is, or how exactly are you guys set up? How do you fund yourselves?
We were incorporated in Delaware in January 1999 as a non-stock corporation. We're a civil rights and educational organization recognized by the U.S. Internal Revenue Service. As such, we are tax exempt under Section 501c3 of the U.S. Internal Revenue Code, and contributions to GATA in the United States are federally tax exempt. I'm sorry I can't offer any goodies to people outside the United States, but at least we are a federally tax exempt organization in the United States. We're supported by ordinary individual contributions from investors, supporters of the free markets. We get some contributions from some investment houses that are oriented toward the precious metals. Certain mining companies have supported us. Unfortunately, I'm a much better secretary than I am a treasurer, Al. We should spend a lot more time on fundraising. We could do a lot more if we did, but we've all got other jobs.
We have all definitely had other jobs. Let's switch over to Murph again here for a second. And that, Bill, you're a frequent speaker at these conferences. What kind of reception are you getting? I know the answer to that, but I want you to tell the people.
Well, first of all, it's interesting to me that at a conference with gold at $1,500, $1,600, close to it, not much announced, really how little activity and excitement there is out there. I mean, this is good, but I mean, it's not much more than it was when gold was at $300 or $400. And normally in other industries, things, really take off. I expected you couldn't even get into something like this at $1,500 gold. So,
yeah, my thoughts exactly. Seriously, yeah, I don't see the enthusiasm that I thought I would see, personally.
And even what we've been done, all what we've uncovered. Maybe Chris can get into briefly what we took on the Fed, and we've had a lot of big success, and things are really happening our way, and yet the reception here is just sort of blah, even for us.
Yeah, it's an interesting phenomenon. Let's just take a real quick, detour here, Bill, and talk a little bit about La Metropole Cafe. Now, that is, in my opinion, a really, really great website. Tell our listeners about it, will you?
Well, I started at September of 1998, and it's mostly about the gold and silver markets, but it covers like all the financial markets to some degree, and there's different people that contribute. I write a daily column every day. People can sign up for a 2-week free trial and then see if it's of interest to them. But we cover the waterfront on gold and silver and have a lot of contributors that are really sharp guys that send me stuff every day. And the good news is for us is that GATA and myself and Ed, we've been bullish on gold and silver for the last decade. We've been right every year. I think it was one year when silver was down slightly, but it's been bull markets, and if we're correct, there's a long way to go. We met at our conference in the Yukon in 2005, when gold was at $436, we talked about $3,000 and $5,000 gold. Now we're at $1,550, so I think $3,000 to $5,000 is in the cards, and you can pick a number for silver.
I think you're right. Led, switching to you just for a second, I want you to talk a little bit about Casey Research. It sounds like that is totally off the subject. It is not. Casey Research is one of the most important research organizations out there in this particular industry, and Ed is a daily contributor to Casey Research. Talk about that just briefly, and then we'll flip it back over to Chris.
Well, thank you for the kind comments about Casey Research, but it's a pleasure to write for them, and they are large, well-respected, and for good reason, well-respected organization. And I write a daily gold and silver commentary for them, and I've been doing it for, it feels like forever, but it's only about 4 years. And it comes out every day, and you can subscribe to it for free if you wish to do so.
You should take a look at it, really. It really is an interesting publication. Okay, Chris Powell, to wrap this thing up, what's the future of GATA?
Al, we do two things. We publicize evidence of the manipulation of the markets, surreptitious central bank intervention in the markets, and we sometimes litigate against it. We had what I think was a very big success a few months ago. We had sued the Federal Reserve for access to its gold documents as a consequence of our Freedom of Information complaint to the Fed. We got a letter from the Fed in which it confirmed that it has secret gold swap arrangements with foreign banks. It's a letter we've posted on our internet site from Kevin M. Warsh, then a member of the Fed's Board of Governors, dated September 17, 2009. Warsh wrote to our lawyer denying our Freedom of Information request and saying that the Fed has gold swap arrangements with foreign banks that must remain secret. So in the course of this...
And this is a matter of public record.
It's posted on our internet site, and we elicited this contemporaneous admission of surreptitious involvement in the gold market by the Fed. We prosecuted the case in U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, and while the Fed won the right to withhold most of the documents at issue, the court ordered the Fed to disclose one document to us. It was the minutes of the G10 Gold and Foreign Exchange Committee meeting of April 1997. It showed central bankers, including a representative of the Federal Reserve, conspiring in secret to manipulate the gold price. Now, we met with U.S. Rep. Ron Paul, Bill and I, on May 24th. We urged him, as the new chairman of the House Subcommittee on Domestic Monetary Policy and Technology, to begin pressing the Fed with questions about its gold swaps. The very next day, Paul went on CNBC and said he would indeed do so, and that at a hearing on Wednesday, June 1st, which was supposed to be about lending by the Federal Reserve, Paul wrapped up the last 6 or 7 minutes of it by asking the Fed's general counsel, Scott Alvarez, whether the Fed was involved in gold swaps. Alvarez tried to dismiss the whole thing, said the Fed doesn't own the gold, the Treasury owns the gold, and the gold certificates that the Fed holds against the Treasury gold are utterly meaningless. It was very, very disgraceful, dissembling. Paul, at the end of the hearing, said he was going to submit more questions in writing to the Fed. I expect that he's on the case now, and I'm very hopeful that the gold price suppression scheme's involvement with the Fed will be further established on the public record this year.
We have a pretty close relationship with that office. Jeff Deist, who is Congressman Paul's chief of staff, is a good friend of mine. Jeff is on the show typically typically weekly, at least every other week for sure. Ron was on the show about 4 weeks ago, Congressman Paul. I will basically take it the next step, and that will be a segment of one of our upcoming radio shows, that specific action. Well, there you have it. See, GATA gets things done. There's no question about it. These are good guys. 3 things. Number 1, take a look at Casey Research, what Ed Steer is writing there. Very credible. Number 2, go to La Metropole Cafe. Great website. It's not all about Murph. He probably would like it to be. He has got some of the best writers in the world contributing there on a daily basis, okay? And then any questions about GATA, you can submit them to any one of these guys, and trust me, they'll jump on it right away. Thanks for watching.